Welcome back to Bros Comics. I'm Nick, and today we're going to talk about a topic that's been kind of heating up a little bit lately, and one I certainly want to give my opinion on, and I think I share the opinion of a ton of folks, but there's also a majority of people, a strong bit of people will say, not necessarily a majority, I don't think, that disagrees with me. Now, this is about X-23 and Wolverine or Logan. Who should be the Wolverine in the MCU? Should the MCU bring in Logan, or should they bring in X-23 to take up the Wolverine mantle? Now, if you go on Twitter, everybody's saying it's X-23. Heck, now, for example, you can't even call her X-23 because it is not her name, it is Laura Kinney. So, for anybody out there that has that opinion, I'm sorry. But Marvel's called her X-23. I've called her X-23. She is introduced as X-23. X-23 is kind of her name, along with Laura Kinney and the all-new Wolverine. Even on the omnibus, it talks about her being X-23. A few years ago, they created an X-23 title again. So X-23 is kind of Laura Kinney's mantle, along with being the all-new Wolverine. Now, let's talk for a minute. So, originally, I absolutely 100% without a shadow of doubt thought Logan should 1000% be the new Wolverine, or should be the Wolverine in the MCU. But I don't like making decisions without really knowing the other side of the argument, or in this case, understanding that other character, Laura Kinney, or X-23. So, I decided to sit down on the Marvel Universe app and read about Laura Kinney, read the comics she's been in, read about X-23. I started off with Nyx. Guys, do not read Nyx. It is the worst comic book in the entire world. It is pointless. They introduce her as basically a child prostitute, and it really makes no sense. Honestly, you can just jump to the new X-23 series, and it'll give you everything you need to know. Now, I checked out that, I started reading X-Force, and then I got to this. This is what I was super excited about. And to be honest with you guys, I read the all-new Wolverine series in less than 24 hours. I started it that night. I got to issue 28, 29, something like that. Finished it up the next morning. It was a fantastic read up until the end. I mean, the ending kind of sucked until that last issue was cool, but that could have been its own series by itself. But after like that last kind of mission, things just kind of started going downhill. But all that to say, I've read about Laura Kinney, I've read about X-23 to really develop a good opinion on her, and I really do love the character. I think she has done fantastic. I went out and bought the omnibus, even though I've already read it digitally. I've been talking about X-23 so much and the all-new Wolverine that my local comic shop found a copy of All New Wolverine #1 they had, and he gave it to me. So shout out to Josh. So I'm a big fan of Laura Kinney. I think she is fantastic. But all that to say, should she be the Wolverine that's introduced into the MCU? Absolutely not. For no reason whatsoever should she be the Wolverine. And I'll give you my opinions. First off, it's freaking Logan. Why on earth would you give up on the opportunity to tell that story, or to watch that story from the MCU standpoint? I will say, I'm fearful what kind of Marvel is Disneyfying a lot of things. I mean, you look at what they did to Taskmaster. Spoiler warning, it was not the Taskmaster you thought you were going to be getting. If you've ever read anything about him in the comics, nothing like it. Nothing. So that kind of worries you a little bit, but I think they can still do a really good job with Logan and Wolverine and telling that story. So why would you give up on that opportunity? He's got to be one of the most popular X-Men ever, right? I mean, you think of X-Men, my mind goes to Wolverine. You think of the kids that grew up on the animated show. You think of the adults who are buying the tickets, folks my age who are buying these tickets. X-Men, man, that's who we love. Again, I do love Laura Kinney, but I mean, kids reading Laura Kinney came out in 2004. You know, they're just now getting of age to spend money, but are those folks really reading the comics or spending all the money? No, I don't think so. I believe it is my generation, a little bit older, going out spending the money. Certainly, we're the ones still reading the comic books, we're seeing a lot of folks that age group really reading manga more so. But all that to say, why would you give up on that opportunity? I know so many folks who probably wouldn't be as excited if it was Laura Kinney. And that's just a personal opinion there. Now, from, I guess, more of a factual standpoint, unless you absolutely change Laura Kinney's backstory, she is a direct clone, and I guess which is weird to me, she's a direct clone, but a genetic daughter of Logan. So are you just going to change up her backstory? She's not a genetic clone. Maybe are you going to give her the original Weapon X storyline? Because I promise you that won't go over very well for people. So you really do need Wolverine and Logan. And I know people are saying, well, you could bring in Old Man Logan and introduce her as the new Wolverine and kind of bypass all of that. Or you could, have her come in as the Wolverine and, basically all of that will kind of go over it in like I guess not a foreshadowing, but kind of like a backstory. And that's a way you could get around it. But I think that would be silly. Again, why give up? Why waste that opportunity to tell that story? Logan is by far one of the best characters when done right in Marvel Comics. Super iconic. I mean, and Fox, in my opinion, didn't really do a great job with him. A comic specific job, which I know we're not really going to get that out of Disney anyways. But why? I just couldn't imagine giving up that opportunity to tell a story about Logan. Right? The last few X-Men movies we got were just garbage. Logan was decent, but yeah, why give up on that opportunity? Find you a 5'3" stocky actor who's rough, maybe even Canadian, who by God loves him some maple syrup and cigars, and tell that story. And I promise you that would be that would be huge. Okay, so I don't believe Laura Kinney should be the Wolverine. And that's coming from somebody who's been converted into a huge Laura Kinney fan. I mean, just quite frankly, I think she is awesome. But man, why would you pass up on that opportunity? You need him for the Weapon X. You need him to clone her. And then really, Logan is the one that kind of shaped her into, yeah, she's kind of nutty, but Logan really helped out with a lot of things. And Logan influenced her to become Wolverine. And look at her during the X-Force storyline and when she joined Professor X's school. I mean, he was the one that kind of looked after her quite a bit. But just, there's so much to her story that you can't tell without having Logan. And if you're going to bypass Logan's history and just throw him in there as an Old Man Logan or just a washed-up Wolverine, I think that would be absolutely a disjustice to the character that is Wolverine or Logan. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think, because this, again, it's heated up quite a bit. I really hope Disney doesn't decide to do Laura Kinney first, but I'll be honest with you guys, I think it will happen. I think she'll end up being the Wolverine we see first, and I don't know. I won't be pumped, but I'll be pumped to see her if done well. I will not be pumped to see Logan get kind of overstepped or anything like that. I think he's owed that much to be told a proper story in the MCU. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. You guys are the best part of Two Brothers Comics, and as always, collect your way.